Ireland and Australia this weekend, folks. Joe Schmidt back in familiar territory against the coach that used to be his assistant, Andy Farrell. They just went head-to-head in this Lions tour, and they get another crack at each other before Joe takes leave of his Wallabies job. We're going to go through the squads which have been announced, some of the recent history, which is pretty tight between these sides. They like a good close match. You guys can let us know your thoughts on how this one is going to go. One thing I do like about this Irish selection from Andy Farrell is he's given Paddy McCarthy a chance to start. I feel like Andy Farrell, we've mentioned it many times, can be a touch conservative in his picks, but given the youngster a crack at loose head, when you've got Alan Alaalatoa being selected for the Wallabies, who's an absolute veteran, it's not quite maybe as physically menacing as the likes of a huge Taniela Tupou, who is rested for this one, but still giving Paddy McCarthy a crack and putting Porter on the bench, I feel like it's just building a bit of depth. See how he goes starting. Dan Sheehan and Tadhg Furlong are back starting, so with one kind of more adventurous pick, it is matched by two slightly more conservative picks, but these guys need game time as well. Tadhg and Dan didn't play last week, so you rest them against Japan, play them against the Wallabies. Ireland want to get another win, and then James Ryan, Tadhg Beirne, familiar locking duo there. Back row of Baird, Doris, and Conan is a wee bit changed. Remember, there's still no Josh van der Fleer. He's still out injured, so I do like the punch you potentially get of playing both Doris and Conan together. And then Baird, I guess, is also covering lock because they haven't got a specialist lock on the bench, but I do feel like his aerial work has been pretty impressive in the last few games, and with Peter O'Mahony having retired, you benefit from having a Lucy who can be a genuine, other option at lineup time. It's a shame Izzy Chukwu isn't available because he's another potential option in that regard, but that's the starting pack. I feel like it's looking pretty good. Gibson-Park is also back in Prendergast. So Leinster duo at 9 and 10. It's obvious that you bring Gibson-Park back after resting him against Japan. I feel like that's a pretty straightforward pick. But then Prendergast ahead of Crowley. They did ask Andy Farrell about this in the press conference, and he just said, he deserves a start, and that he came off the bench and did well the week before against Japan. And I do feel like, again, it's good for Andy not to be putting all his eggs in one basket, because you've seen that with certain other positions in the Irish side where he's been very consistent, and there's that balance. There's no right or wrong answer between giving the team cohesion and chemistry by playing the guys in the same positions week in, week out, and then also building depth on the other end, being over-reliant on one player. So I don't have a problem with him mixing and matching from time to time. Both guys, Crowley and Prendergast, need game time at number 10. So Sam gets the go this week. And I'm also chuffed that Stuart McCloskey's back. I mean, it's unfortunate that Ringrose is out injured. Jamie Osborne's also out injured, which is another unfortunate one in terms of him building a bit of depth at fullback. But McCloskey played well against the All Blacks, particularly in that first half. Big old wrecking ball. So he's going to be a fun guy to watch. I've always liked him and felt that he's a bit unlucky to play in a time when, it's Henshaw and Ringrose and Aki getting the majority of the minutes. But he gets a crack here. Henshaw does shift to 13. Tommy O'Brien, who I thought was really hungry for work on the right wing. I'm pleased to see him get another crack. He's really, really come along quite nicely since getting his international debut not too long ago. And on the left wing, it is James Lowe, who's back in with that big boot of his. And that also means Mack Hansen's shifting to fullback, which is not a very common one for the Irish starting 15. It's always Hugo Caelan. Hugo Caelan's injured. It's been Jamie Osborne. Jamie Osborne's injured. Well, now it's Mack Hansen's chance to get a crack. But we've seen him play there before. But just for Ireland, it's usually him on the right wing. But we'll see how he goes. Kelleher, Porter, and Clarkson, front row replacements, all dropped to the bench after starting last week. Timoney drops to the bench after starting last week as well. And Cian Prendergast is there too. So it's a pretty physical looking bunch of forwards, I guess, on the bench. Craig Casey, Jack Crowley likewise dropped to the bench, the Munster duo. And then Bundee Aki is the guy in the 23 jumper. So 5-3 split for the Irish. I mean, I guess a couple of key guys to highlight. I already mentioned Tommy O'Brien with his work rate last week against Japan. The dude was getting carries for days. He was getting through run meters. He scored a nice try. Good to see him, as I said, really looking for work. And then Caelan Doris, after such a long-term injury, coming off the bench, playing in maybe a few more minutes than he would have expected against the All Blacks. And then last week, leads Ireland in terms of the carries and the tackles. So, Captain Fantastic back in, and he's in the number 7 jersey for this one. For the Aussies, I do feel like they look tired. I think they've had more tests than anybody else this year. And remember, they have not had them with like a mid-year kind of break. It's been since the end of the Super Rugby season, international season kicked underway, and these guys have been going the entire half of the year pretty much without a break. A very full-on Lions tour. The Rugby Championship, which had its ups and downs. The downs have been increasing, though. And, I mean, some people said you need to give more credit to Italy last week, which I'll say, yep, for sure. We do need to give credit to Italy for beating these guys for the second time in a row last week. But the Aussies just played a lot of games, and there's some tired legs there. They've had injuries. They're on, how many guys have they played at 10 this year? At least 4. And they've had, Len Ikitau, who's one of their star players, unavailable due to club rugby. Skelton's been kind of in and out with club commitments. Tom Hooper in and out with club commitments. They've had guys with viruses. Dylan Peach and Max Jorgensen had to sit last week because they were ill. So there's been a lot going on. Obviously, every side deals with injuries and whatnot, but it just feels like the Wallabies aren't looking as fresh as they maybe did at the start of the Rugby Championship when they had that, big win at Ellis Park. It was kind of a high point of the season. And it feels like they are looking to get into a wee summer break sooner rather than later. But they've still got 2 games to go. Ireland is going to be a really big one for them. And Joe Schmidt, I think he said he gave them Monday off just to rest and refresh. So I think he feels it as well. There's some tired legs in this Aussie squad. Angus Bell, Matty Fassler, and Alan Alatoa. That's the front row. Fassler and Bell continue on. Alatoa is in, and Tupou's just rested. They mentioned that, Alan Alatoa is just a fresh guy in. They just need a fresh pair of legs. So Tupou's a big unit, but if he's not able to give 100%, he needs a rest. Bring in Triple A. See how he goes against, as I said, a pretty young loose head prop in Paddy McCarthy. Jeremy Williams and Tom Hooper is the second row. So Tom Hooper is kind of having to fill in at lock because he's more of a loose forward but can play lock. I guess that means maybe a bit more work rate because he is just super busy around the park. Nick Frost is still there. He's just dropped to the bench. So line-out time is going to be interesting because Nick Frost tends to be their main line-out operator for Australia. Valentini's there at 6, McCrite's there at 7, and Wilson's there at 8. These guys need to get some go-forward ball, man. The numbers for Wilson, he was leading the carries last week for Australia, but struggling to get over the advantage line, and even Valentini's the same. Valentini gets a lot of high praise for being, their kind of go-to guy as their meter eater, but he's been struggling as well. Aussie loose forwards need to find some purchase against this Irish team. McCrite's still going to be getting turnovers for days. He got 5 a couple of weeks ago, 3 last week. The guy is an absolute poacher, but the other guys around him need to get some go-forward ball. Can't just be a big defensive shift. Gordon and O'Connor is another changed 9-10 combo. We've seen so many different combinations at 9-10. That doesn't help the Aussie attack either. Obviously, McDermott's injured. Nick White's retired. Lolasio's injured. Tom Liner was not quite 100%, so they didn't take him on tour. They've brought back Carter Gordon from league. They've had James O'Connor in and out. It's hard to build a combination when it's so many changes. It's at the opposite end of that, cohesion versus depth building. The Aussies have got heaps of guys getting some game time, but very little cohesion. So yeah, Jake Gordon and James O'Connor this week. So it's another combo. I think Carter Gordon had a bit of a quad issue after last week's game. Who knows whether he would have got another crack. I forgot to mention Tane Edmed is another guy. He's on the bench. But yes, the veteran is in at 10. And Ikitau is back, so he gets to resume his midfield combo with Suali'i. That's the best midfield combo for the Aussies. So that's genuinely something to get excited about. Potter's on the left wing. Dalgunu, who has had a few kind of electric bench moments this season, is on the right wing. And Jorgensen, having recovered from that illness, is in at fullback. So kind of both sides are playing with their guy who's more renowned as a winger in at fullback. We'll see which guy is able to stand up more. Bench-wise, Pollard, Robertson, and Nongo. So Robertson comes into the 23 to cover Loosehead. Nick Frost, like I mentioned, drops to the bench. Tackle machine, Carlo Tizzano is there at 20. Tackle machine, Maul try scorer, but again, not really like a traditional buster of tackles like you might think of a Valentini. So it'll be interesting to see if Tizzano replaces McCright or somebody else in the back row. Lonergan is there, Edmed is there, and Callaway drops to the bench. Some stats for both of these sides. There was a fair bit of negativity last week from the commentators I had on my feed of the Irish game against Japan. I beat them pretty comfortably, scored some nice tries. I felt like Ireland were coming into the game as the game went on, getting more cohesive and more, I don't know, just more slick. So hopefully we see that. Like they were still getting, like 6 tries. They didn't allow many line breaks. There were positive signs building in terms of, the meters being gained and whatnot. The line out still looks a little bit off. Line out could do with a nice 100% one. Would be pleasing. Because against the All Blacks, and then especially the start of that game against Japan, it was looking a little bit shaky at times. They would like a really nice solid platform at line-out time. The Aussie attack, though, I mean, it's struggling. Like the meters per carry, remember 4 meters per carry is that gold standard of you're getting good go-forward ball. And like at Ellis Park, the Aussies were at 5.5. They were cutting the box at times to shreds. It was glorious stuff to see from the Aussies. Admittedly, they have got a bunch of guys injured since then, but since that 5.5 high point, they've been averaging 2.9. Last week was 2.5 meters a carry. The week before against England was 2.6. At least get to high 3s. They're in the 2s, which just means they're just going nowhere. And as I said, it is guys like Wilson and Valentini who are not getting go-forward ball. It's not just them, but yeah, barring the Japan game, they've also been conceding lots of penalties. So discipline needs to be better. Getting over the advantage line, they really need improvement in this area. Recent history doesn't go well for the Aussies as well, because of the last 5, 4 of them are Irish wins, and they're the most recent 4. Remember going back to that series in 2018, that's the year we started this channel. 2018, that Irish series. The Aussies won the first game, the Irish won the next 2. And then 2022 and 2024, both Irish wins at the Aviva as well. They have tended to be close games, though. That is one thing that is pleasing. The average score is only 18-17 to Ireland, so it's a 1-pointer. And even years like in 2022, the Aussies were expected to get a flogging. It was 13-10, so they tend to be close. We'll see if it is close. It's not predicted to be close. The bookies are saying 11 points to this Irish side, and the rugby forecast algorithm goes a step further, saying 15 points. We'll see if Joe Schmidt's knowledge of the Irish squad gives them any advantage, but they are big-time underdogs for this one. In terms of their chasing the top 6 spots in the world, the Aussies absolutely need to win here, especially after the disappointing one against the Italians. Carl Dixon, Englishman, is the referee for this one. Fingers crossed he has a good game. If you want to get yourself any British and Irish Lions gear, which is on special, because the tour is over and they're trying to get rid of some gear. It's the best time to be getting rugby gear, in my opinion, as a guy who owns a fair bit of rugby gear. Check out the British and Irish Lions store down in the description. Use that link. It tells them 2 cents sent you. Have a browse, see what gear is available. Maybe get some presents for Christmas and stuff. Or just get yourself some nice rugby gear. 8:10 kickoff. Perfect time for those of us here in NZ. It's 9:10 in the morning. Breakfast and some rugby. Should be decent enough for you guys in Australia as well. A wee bit earlier, but yeah. Rank 3 against rank 7. Will it be another close one, or are Ireland going to do this one convincingly? You guys take care, and I will talk to you guys again soon. See you later.